Well, you've just heard the intro again for like the fourth consecutive episode, and yeah, we're in episode 13. We are global now. Oh my God, Ben, we were famous last night, weren't we?
Got invited to do our first ever live video chat, didn't we? Got invited by Washington DC to lead a conversation, which was quite good fun. Did you enjoy it?
Yeah, and we got paid for it. Not. Yeah, no,
Checks in the post, I'm sure.
very good to be fair. Like, I took a photo actually of the screen when there was the peak of the viewers or whatever, and there's like 13, 14 screens. That was awesome to be fair. Really good. Great names on there as well. Like it was good to have. Let's say we're talking about Matt Rawson, Graham Highland, Ivan,
Les was there,
Haven Pell.
and
Obviously
then Haven, Temple,
built the
Dan
one.
McBride,
Yeah, some great names actually. Just like to add to a discussion which we were trying to lead, which was good actually.
Eric Barker,
Yeah, like and it was good actually. I thought it went well.
and Mr. Carey.
Oh yeah, of
President Carey.
course. There's actually a great thing, mate. You need to get on Instagram and do like you actually probably won't know how to use it because you're a bit of an Instagram noob, but you know, you know the it's like a sort
Mate, I've
of
seen it. The chase thing.
yeah the chase. Have you done it? It's
Yeah,
actually
I did
really
it today.
it's really cool.
Guess what? So I'm assuming that
It's random. It's random.
yeah, obviously it's random, but you assume that you want am I right in thinking it's what chase you could beat or something? So you want
Yeah.
better than one or something like that?
Yeah.
Yeah, so guess what mine was?
Second gallery.
Worse than first.
Worse than first. You'll struggle to defend that, mate.
Exactly. Some courts don't even have a worse than first.
Yeah, serve a good railroad. That's all I'm saying.
It's going to be pretty tight, yeah.
No. Oh, that's funny. I'm gonna put it on and just see if anyone replies to it. I really like again that sort of stuff is quality. Like, oh, the more of that, the better. But yeah.
How do you I wonder how you design something like that.
Mate, that's easier said than done. I definitely have not got the expertise to do that.
No, that's absolutely brilliant.
It's awesome. But yeah, this week's actually going to be an exciting episode. So we had a chat, didn't we? We were like, oh my God, what are we going to talk about with this podcast? And we've actually had a lot of sort of messages in, feedback on the podcast, which is fantastic. And I'm not going to name him, but an avid listener from the States mentioned about the crowd, didn't it? From the Prested World Doubles in 2017.
Yeah, that was like a specific example.
A specific example, anyway.
Didn't it?
And it mentioned the crowd, and we thought, hang on a minute, the crowd is actually a big part of real tennis, and it obviously affects everyone when they play. Because there's always a marker watching. That's at least one person in the crowd, isn't it? There's always your opponent, and just obviously there's a lot of chat about crowds in other sports. So I'm thinking we're going to talk about the crowds today, aren't we?
Yeah, well, as you said, like it's a massive part of like any match, and let's be realistic, like nobody wants to play in front of nobody.
Yeah. Although if you play at Lords, you got to get used to it.
Oof, meow. But yeah, I remember like I would love. Unfortunately, we don't really have like the depth, and in fact, I'd like to talk about this at on a different podcast. But like National League in the UK,
Yeah.
like I have been very guilty of like not really being as interested in it as I could be. Although the year when we played together a couple of years ago, I was like, right, let's actually like get stuck into this. So if I've got to drive down to Hampton Court on a Saturday evening to play tennis, I may as well like be interested.
It was never quite that bad. It was Friday nights though.
I think Hampton Court was Saturday 4 p.m.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't. We did two. We did two Hampton Courts.
Oh, that's right. We tucked them up twice, didn't we?
Yeah. One. I think it was Friday and Friday both times. I think.
Yeah. All right. Well, anyway, something that's happened in National League in the past which is a bit of a deterrent is it's quite tough anyway, like having to travel down like on an evening after work, and then you get somewhere and like there's nobody really watching, and you kind of think,
yeah, that's true.
Is this like? I mean, National League is obviously not the biggest thing in the world for like the top players, so it's great match practice, but you're kind of doing it for the people watching. It's not like there's any major trophies or money on parade or anything like that. So it's kind of the way I look at it is it's an opportunity for club members to see like some world class tennis.
Yeah.
So it kind of like irks me a bit when you turn up and there's only like 5 or 10 people there, and you kind of think, oh come on. I'm not saying that the clubs aren't selling it well enough or anything like that, but
From
you
our
know,
ex- from our from our
you
ex-
want to play.
from our experience, I think when we did do that National League, I think there was people at every single time. There was
Yeah.
good crowd in, like especially for the final at Hollyport. Hampton and Court always fill it really good.
Well, there hadn't been National League Prem for
No,
definitely 1 year, maybe two. So they've been starved of it a bit. So it was quite good that. And I think the fact that we changed the format because, the old days when it was like 4 home, 4 away. You got to try and fill 4 home matches. That's quite tough.
yeah, that's so true.
Because people are like, well, I can't come to this one. And you're like, oh, come on. And they're like, well, just come to one of the other 3.
Cambridge, another
So
one, filled it. Yeah, it was good, but yeah,
anyway, we don't want to be talking about
no,
National
no,
League
no, no.
crowds, but in relation to like crowd support or behaviour, I
Yeah,
guess they're two different things. And I think one of the things that personally holds this game back potentially sometimes is the history and the tradition and stuff is what makes it. And I'm certainly not saying we should change it and things like that, but traditionally it's been a sport where everybody's very respectful, which you have to be, but respectful generally means quite quiet and
yeah,
like a bit of like light applause here and there and stuff like that.
yeah,
And I quite like the fact that some clubs and some atmospheres are just like, no, it's 2020 now, and we're here to watch a major sporting event, and we're going to get behind our horse.
yeah. I agree. No,
Um,
I personally think again I compare it with rackets, having seen a lot of crowds in rackets, and very much
that racket's very boisterous.
the culture very much, let's say, because it's obviously a continuous play for 12, 15 minutes when the match is going on. You've obviously got that downtime when, let's say, the ball's not in play, to have a bit of a shout, and let's say once the ball goes dead, to like give a roar, like come on, serve up, whatever. Whereas in real tennis, because I wouldn't say there is that downtime, and it is more a culture of silence. It's difficult other than a bit of like applause, because you're as well, because you're on the same level. Let's say sat in the dead on the galleries, you're on the same height as the players. It's almost a bit more like you're in their face. I think that's maybe why it's not as loud.
Yeah, what I imagine is that because so I always liken it to like a football match, right?
Yeah,
If you've got if John Terry has got 10 or 3,000 away fans calling him a prick, even though it's going to be very loud,
yeah,
it's just going to be one kind of rumble of noise, isn't it? So it's probably quite
yeah.
easy.
He probably just
Like
doesn't hear it. He just doesn't care.
you can tune it out. Whereas if you've got one person, let's say, shouting, you're going to pick that voice out, aren't you?
Mate, and you're gonna comment on it after the game, like, God, he was such a wanker. Like, honestly, it happens a
It's
lot,
like
doesn't
walk,
it? Like,
it's like walking down the street and you just hear like general, you just hear people chatting and stuff like that, and then you hear like an American accent, and you're like, wow, I can really hear that because
yeah,
it's
I know.
because it's something different, sticks out like a sore thumb.
Yeah,
So I think because real tennis doesn't have the thousands watching and stuff like that, I think people in the past have been a bit reluctant to
yeah,
kind of be a bit outspoken because everybody, every generally speaking, all of the people watching know the pros and they've spoken to the pros and stuff. So they
it's
probably
true.
think like, oh, I don't want to be rude. They're going to hear that it's me, and I don't want them to think that I'm being rude or anything like that, right?
Yeah,
But the fact is, if you play away and it's a major match, then I would expect the crowd to not want me to win, and I would expect them to. So the Eliminator in Melbourne, so we were both there for that.
we were. Yeah, I
When
know.
when I lost to
I
Chris,
was about to use that example. Yeah,
the crowd were extremely respectful,
it was
right?
weird, wasn't it? Honestly, it was really weird. So, like, let's say after the first set, and it was 6-4 to Chappers in the first. It was almost like, what is this atmosphere like? It was. I was expecting like people to be going mental for Chappers, having seen, let's say, the atmosphere at Prested when it was that World Doubles, having seen the atmosphere at Queens when Faye won. And it was just really like normal. I was like, this is a huge game. And so after that, I was like, right, well, I just don't even care anymore. Like, I'm going quite big. And it was like me and the guys we were sat with, and it was basically just the only sort of atmosphere going on. It was weird.
Yeah, so they're a very nice group of members down there, very respectful, love their tennis. not particularly boisterous. And I've been down to Melbourne and played there quite a lot of times, so a lot of them would probably know who I am at least. May not have ever spoken to me, but would know who I am. So
Yeah.
they're probably thinking, well, we don't want to be too nasty, basically. Obviously, as an away player in a World Championship where you've literally up sticks and moved over to Australia for 2 weeks, you've got nothing to do apart from play tennis. The last thing you the last thing you want is to walk into like a cauldron, right?
Yeah, I was expecting it to be an absolute cauldron. I was like, wow.
Depends how you react to it, and to be honest,
Yeah.
it wouldn't really bother me. But you kind of expected it, and I even said to you at the change of ends at one point. It was either like towards the end of day one or early on day two, and I even said. I said something like, "Oh, thank God this isn't my home match" or something. And you said, "What?" And I was like, "Well, because it's like a morgue."
Yeah, you did say that.
That was just me. I wasn't being intentionally like rude or disrespectful to the members, but yeah, I was expecting. And if I'm a home player in a situation like that, I'm really wanting them to get stuck in. I remember when we had the IRTPA Championships here.
Yeah, insane. That's insane.
And I'd got through to play Camden in the semis, and people were kind of saying, "Oh, what? How do you want us to be?" And I was like, "Loud as possible, please."
Yeah, 100%.
Like I don't want you to cross the line and say anything disrespectful. You can't be rude to him and boo him and heckle him. But I want you to make him feel as uncomfortable as possible.
I think people are sort of put off by being quite loud because they don't want to get it wrong. Whereas I feel like if you just get it right, if you're literally just encouraging your guy, that's fine. As long as you're not like clapping. I disagree when it is like clapping someone's mistakes or like going yes when someone's like netted an absolute shocker. Like that's bad. But
it is bad. But do you know what I mean? I think also like you have to put that into context. So if it's 1 game all and 15 all, and you put a ball in the net, and the crowd start cheering, that's really rude. And that's really disrespectful.
Yeah, people do get it wrong.
Whereas if it's like 4 all, and it's 40-30 to you, or 40-30 to your opponent, and you put the ball in the net, and they start cheering, I don't see that as a problem, because they're cheering the fact that it's now 5-4, and that's a crucial game. They're not cheering the fact that you've netted it. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly, yeah. And there's plenty of times where people...
Unless they are, in which case they're entitled to do that anyway.
It's quite fun. So I was watching, obviously, there's been so much time on my own recently, and I've just been watching past real tennis, and I was watching the stream of the 0 to 9s, and my final when I was playing against Durac, and there's a ball I get back off the timbre, quite a good get, and Durac makes an error, and my dad's in the gallery, and he like starts clapping. Obviously, Durac's netted it. And he's basically clapping because he's seen my timbre get, and he's clapping that as a shot. And Durac thinks he's clapping the error, and he like looks at him and like shakes his head. And my dad apologised to him after, but obviously that's literally just like
I've had that before as well.
Yeah.
I remember playing somebody in the British Open, and Robert Frost was up in the top gallery, and I think I just happened to have a rally where I got like quite a lot of good stuff back, and I like hustled pretty well, and then I think it ended up being like my opponent hit the ball into the net or made an error, and he kind of applauded, and my opponent was not very happy with it, and I think they said something to him afterwards, and he said like, "No, I was applauding Ben's good play in that rally.
Yeah,
I wasn't applauding that like isolated incident.
Of course not. Of course not.
And at the end of the day, so if we like move on from that like one step further, so anyway, I think as a crowd, if I'm an away player and it's a World Championship or a British Open or something, or even if you walk into like a British Open, right, and it's me against you, right?
Yeah.
Neither of us are Queen's members. Neither of us work at Queen's or anything like that.
They're all supporting me though.
So they've got to pick and choose who they're going to support, right?
Yeah.
And I would walk into that match and go, I don't really care whether they support me or not, because I'm going to tune it out. And if they're gung ho for you, absolutely fine. It depends on like how some people react to crowds differently, don't they? They'll either it's a sink or swim. Some people will just kind of go, God, I don't like this, and I don't like the fact that they're not cheering for me, or it gets under their skin or something. Yeah. And some people revel in that. Some people are like, right, I'm going to prove fucking prove me wrong.
I know, yeah, what a great line. I know people. It's an easy thing to say, like, "Oh, the crowd just doesn't affect me," but like, I hate it when they're all going for the other person. Like, I've played
I
quite a
mean,
lot
you'll
of.
definitely, whether it affects you or not, you'll
Yeah,
notice it,
you
right?
notice it, and it
You
annoys
will
me.
notice.
It annoys me. Like, I've played a lot of. I've played a lot of stuff where, let's say when you are, let's say, an under 24s or something, when it's maybe an underdog playing you, or you've been at Oxford, let's say you're playing Craig, who's obviously a home player, National League, likewise, you're the away guy. And it is annoying because they are going massive whenever they win a point, and you're like, for God's sake, he's not even played well that rally. I've just like played badly, and you're basically thinking that they're applauding bad play from me, and it does just get to me a little bit. And and because it is that close proximity, you've just got to try and think in real tennis. You just got to try and win them over, um, and just sort
Well,
of
I mean,
nullify the
if
crowd.
and if you can't win them over,
Yeah,
you know, the fact is, right. So here's my take on it: is if you walk on court and you're playing Craig at Oxford,
yeah,
and the crowd want Craig to win,
yeah.
they've made their mind up.
Yeah, you can't win that. Yeah,
You're not going to turn them around and get them cheering for you, are you? So you've just got to go right. They want Craig to win, and they're vocally wanting Craig to win. What am I going to do with that information? I can't change it.
yeah,
So
it's so true.
am I gonna be a badger about it,
Yeah,
or am I just gonna like knuckle down and crack on, or am I just going to keep doing exactly what I would do normally and just forget the crowd? Because ultimately, if you walked on court to play Craig at Oxford, and within the first couple of like points and games, they started cheering for Craig, and you were like, "Well, that's a bit of a surprise,"
well,
then
it
you're a muppet anyway.
wouldn't be a
You
surprise.
yeah, you want to go into that match going right.
I'm in
I
trouble here.
know that it's like the same thing as I walked on court. The eliminator is like a really good example because
Yeah,
obviously it's a one-off match where it's
yeah,
not during a tournament where there's loads of other people around. It's a one-off match. It's 1v1,
yeah.
and it's the other side of the world. So I walk on court and I'm like, right, every single person, barring about 2 or 3 people in this building, don't want me to win.
I know. That was why I was just quite vocal because I was like, we've got to try and sort of. I think I felt like because the atmosphere wasn't quite as boisterous, I could swing something in your favour and think, come on, like why don't we sort of build the atmosphere here a little bit,
Yeah,
which is
and you
good.
know what? Going back to like, obviously, I was very fortunate to be like Rob's hitting partner for the
Yeah,
2018 World Championship, and I felt, and again, this is no disrespect to anybody or anything like that, I felt like Rob's camp and the crowd were leading the charge. Like
yeah,
they were very much like the vocal people, and then Cam's team were vocal, but it felt to me, and I could be wrong, that they were like reacting to Rob's crowd. Do you know what I mean?
that's good
They
though.
were kind of like, yeah, which is
That's
great,
really
but
healthy.
it wasn't like they were kind of thinking like, oh, okay, you know, we need to cheer in response to that rather than just like we need to just cheer our guy on anyway. I'm not saying he didn't have any support or anything like that, like
No,
at
no,
all, but it definitely felt
loads.
like the atmosphere was being created by the Rob supporters, and the Camden supporters were kind of reacting to it. And it's
Yeah,
interesting because obviously I don't normally sit and kind of analyze from the outside the crowd stuff because I don't normally sit and watch like a match of that intensity for that length of time. So
and it is intense. You do almost feel like you're part of the match when the crowd is like big. It is. It's a
yeah,
weird feeling. It's not quite like watching other live sport like football or lawn tennis live. You with reelers, you really do get caught up in the emotion of it. I feel like,
well,
oh
you're
my,
right there, aren't you? I mean,
yeah.
you are literally right there.
Like let's say if it's
There's no,
when it's a hazard chase and people are changing ends, I'm like, oh my god, here, like come on, hit that gallery, mate, come on, and then you hit it on the roof, and you're living it, you're living it with them, you really are, because
yeah.
it's just that kind of thing. Whereas I feel like with other stuff, like with rackets, it's all just quite exciting. Yeah, you're all getting excited, but with real tennis, you can see the thought process in their head, like, oh please go down the line, come on, just choose the right shot. It's extraordinary.
So I think if we just circle back to like the person who made the comment
Yeah,
about crowds, I might even
Preston, yeah,
try and find it while I'm talking to you.
no,
But
do it.
there is a very there is a very fine line between like positive support and
Yeah,
then someone crossing the line, right?
yes,
So I think so. The person in question kind of said, "Oh, what about you know Tim and Camden were being. Don't quote me on this because I haven't got it in front of me, but basically like they were booing or
Nah, they
cheering
were
theirs or
just, let's
something
say,
like that.
obviously Rob and Ricardo playing, like, let's say if Tim and Cam have missed a ball, they're cheering as if Rob and Ricardo have won a point. Just, let's say, cheering every time they win a point.
Right.
I think, having watched that match, they just cheer every time Rob and Ricardo win.
So on that basis, it's like, Ricardo worked there. That's where he started playing and stuff. Right. I don't think we need to obviously explain that the crowd would have wanted Robert and Ricardo to win.
Yeah.
And I also don't think it's for us to decide if a crowd is going too far. That is that rests purely on the shoulders of the marker.
I agree.
Don't you think?
I've never seen it. I've never seen a marker say, guys, come on, you can't, like, cheer that. I've certainly been told off by a marker for going, like, come on, if someone's netted one, which is quite bad. But that's obviously just like emotion.
Yeah, if a marker deems like a crowd to be going too far, then the marker should step in and do something about it. I don't think it's for. Let's say you had like, Tim and Cam supporters down the side galleries there, and they're kind of chuntering away because they think the Preston crowd are being a bit disrespectful to their guys. They've got no right to say anything because it's their opinion. They are spectators. Their opinion doesn't matter. The opinion is that of the marker. If the marker thought, do you know what, this is quite boisterous, but that's okay because I don't think anyone's crossing the line. This person's just crossed the line. I need to say something. That's completely up to them, and they're allowed to do that. And then that person or whatever should, stop or whatever. But I don't think. Yeah, do you know what I'm getting at here? Like,
yeah, I'd love to see a marker. I'd love to see, like, a marker walk out into the middle of the court and say, guys, can we please be a bit more respectful with errors? It would just look ridiculous.
So what happened again? Like, not to like bang this drum again, but in the eliminator with Chappers, I actually turned around and engaged with the crowd twice.
Oh my god, yes, you did. Oh, because there was a ball where, and obviously
because they started to cheer twice, and not it wasn't anything. It was nothing deliberate. Like, it was absolutely nothing deliberate to try and get under my skin or do anything like that. It was purely accidental, both occasions.
Yeah.
But they started to cheer before the ball was dead.
It's obviously because they think, like, not making assumptions here, but there's a lot of shots where you think, oh, he's never going to get that, and I'm like, Ben's going to time that off the back wall. He's going to get that, and they've obviously started cheering, and I saw it happen. I was like, oh no, don't start cheering.
The funny thing is, I was never going to get either of them, but that's not the point.
And I remember the point as well. I remember it like clear as day.
I remember them both, but like that's where then in fact, it wasn't even the marker. Like,
Frankie,
one of the
wasn't
spectators. No, it was one of the spectators who is very well respected in the game, and he turned around and said, look, guys, can we just make sure that the ball's dead before?
Oh, yes. That's
cheering?
That's what happened.
And I'm like,
I remember.
So again, there's that line there, isn't there? What they did was they crossed the line. It wasn't deliberate.
No.
But and I think, so I think hostility in a crowd is absolutely fine. You've just got one person who's in charge, and that'll be the marker, who has to kind of say, right, I think that's too far, so I need to say something. This is okay. And ultimately, so the way I do it at Leamington, because the crowd is extremely boisterous during club events there, and they're all fairly well charged during the afternoon. The culture at the club here is that banter is like encouraged and accepted, like during points, basically.
Can I have that on record?
There's a lot of interaction between the crowd and the players, like during the match.
Yeah.
And when I'm marking, I kind of think to myself, well, look, if this was me playing, this would be unacceptable because I'm going to be playing in a match which is much more important. Sorry. But I always think to myself, right, I'm not going to say anything as the marker because what if the players don't care?
Yeah, exactly. It's up to the players to say
So when it starts getting a bit, like when people are just chatting away and, like the volume starts to rise a bit, I think to myself on occasions, oh, this is a bit loud now. But I always basically say to myself, right, I'm not going to say anything because I don't want to ruin the atmosphere if the players aren't bothered by it. So what I'm going to do is say nothing. As soon as one of the players looks at me in a way that says like, "What's this all about?" I will step in immediately and say, "Right," because ultimately the match is about what's happening on court, not the volume and the chat going on off the court, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So if in that world double situation which is the one that we were pointed to, if the crowd were like deliberately trying to engage with Tim and Cam and just be like, oh, Cam, 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 or trying to get his attention, that's unacceptable.
Yeah, that's so bad. I
If
don't
they're
know.
like, if he serves a fault and they're like, oh, on the penthouse or something like that, that's unacceptable.
Short on the line.
So
Balls down.
if they're actually actively trying to engage,
Yeah.
that's unacceptable. And again, it's unacceptable like in football as well. 30,000 people are like shouting at John Terry, calling him a prick. That's not acceptable, but you can't stop 30,000 people doing that, can you?
Part of the culture, yeah. I can remember.
Whereas you could
Yeah.
easily, like, I've been very close as a player on one occasion, definitely, to basically turning around to the marker and just being like, "Get that person out, please."
It's a power
Not
trip, isn't it? It's good. It's good. It's a good move. I like it.
well. I mean, like if again, and then you have to kind of think to yourself, right? Am I now being a bit because what if the marker turns around and says, "Well, I don't think what they're doing is unacceptable at all," and if it's putting you off, you just need to be mentally tougher. But if they're being a bit like over the top, the players are well within their rights to turn around and say that person's being unacceptable. You can hear it as well. Are you okay with what they're saying?
Yeah. It would be an interesting thing. I'd love to see it personally. Like, let's say if someone's got some demon in the front row, like I can't have him here. I can remember in Chicago when it was Cam v Steve, and in Chicago, obviously, it's a newish court. Obviously reinstated in 2012, so a lot of the members were new to the game. So very much, there's some times when they will cheer, and maybe it's at the wrong time, but it still just creates like an amazing atmosphere. And obviously, you were there the other day, not the other day, well, a few months ago. That feels like a long time ago. And I remember
Yeah.
Cam sort of speaking to Chap as he was marking and being like, "Oh, can we tell him to be quiet?" But I don't think Cam actually minded the noise. I think it was more just doing it to get a bit of momentum. And likewise, Tim did the same when he played an eliminator against Steve. I don't think any player really minds the noise. I think it's good. Any atmosphere which is like that is amazing because it's not what you're used to in reelers. But obviously, they're going to use that sort of they're being out of order just to get some sort of like momentum back. I don't think any player really
Do you
minds
know
it.
what? I think that's exactly what Camden did when I played him here.
Yeah,
I can't remember.
I guarantee you
He
didn't
turned
care.
around. He turned around to Liam and was like, not having a go at him at all, but was just like, seriously, like we're in the middle of points and blah 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 blah. And Liam kind of just said to the crowd, like, look, can you just make sure that the ball is absolutely dead before you start blah blah blah.
Yeah.
And Cam came back to me afterwards and he said, oh, they didn't bother me at all. But basically, like because they then got a bit of a talking to, they quietened down.
It's all
So
part. Yeah,
basically, so it's like it's all mind games.
people are gonna put. Yeah,
Ultimately,
people are gonna toe
if you
on.
if you if you walk on court and you don't like a bit of like, and the crowd don't want you to win, and you're aware of that, and it's a little bit like hostile, not in a bad way, you just suck it. You've got to expect it. Like,
It's
well, when we
cool.
played the US Open doubles final this year, Cam actually said like a few times, like sarcastically, like, oh yeah, you're not going to, he hit like a really good shot into the winning gallery or something, and obviously like you can hear tumbleweed. And he kind of like turns around and he's like, oh yeah, so you cheer for them or whatever. Like, what happened to like cheering for good tennis and stuff like that? And I even actually said to him, like, when we were changing ends, I was like, mate, are you for real? And he's like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, you must know that they don't want you to win.
Yeah,
And
that's
it
just.
doesn't matter. It doesn't matter
Yeah.
that you hit a good shot. They don't care because they don't want you to win.
Yeah, it's not
So
the point. Like, you might get the odd guy clapping for good tennis. Like, I'd probably clap.
yeah,
I'd always clap if it's a sick shot. I'd like, fair, that's good. But
well, like Steve could hit like Steve could have just hit like a frame ball down the middle that like won the point, and they would have erupted.
yeah,
That's the atmosphere that
you've got
you're in.
those 3,000.
You're at Steve's home court. They want Steve to win
Yeah,
at all costs.
you've
Like
got.
not at all costs, like cheating and stuff. Absolutely not, obviously, but like they will cheer when Steve wins a point
Yeah.
because it means he's getting closer to winning. and they will maybe not cheer when his opponent
Let's say
like
if John Terry's getting
wins the point.
if John Terry's getting booed by 3,000 fans and then he does like a goal saving clearance or like a great header, they're not going to start cheering for John Terry. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
And
John Terry's like a good example as well because he's going to turn around and be like, "I'm on 200 grand a week and I'm banging like half my teammates' wives, so I don't care."
That's actually very true. Yeah, he certainly polarized opinion for anyone who's listening in America. Slightly controversial figure, but very good. Um, yeah, it's
He's actually the assistant manager of my football team as
a
well, which
Villa.
is
Yeah,
interesting.
man, I love John Terry. He's so good. But yeah, in terms of crowds, I mean, we could talk all day about like experiences we've had, and I personally would like it if everyone just got a bit involved. Like whenever I watch, I try and sort of make a bit of noise, something. Just and as much as I hate it when I'm playing, maybe if someone's not doing it for me, but you can influence the game. You really can, and I think everyone who is watching or not watching, sorry, listening to this, I wouldn't be afraid of, let's say, being a bit louder in the gallery if you do see something which is good, like, oh, come on, here we go. Just saying something, because it does build a bit of atmosphere and everyone will get involved.
Well, and
Um,
also for like people that think like sometimes it's a bit unacceptable or something like that.
no,
Generally speaking, the crowd are wanting somebody to win as opposed to wanting the other person
it's
to
good, it's
lose. Do you
good.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like if I'm watching if I'm over at the US Pro and I'm watching two of my mates play in a match, I'm wanting one of them to win. That's not because I want the other person to lose or I like the other person better. I'm just like, oh, I want this guy to win today.
It's
There's
true.
nothing against the other person, you know. And you know what? Maybe in like certain situations, some crowd members or some crowds do actively want somebody to lose because they don't like them very
That
much.
is
In which
brutal.
case, I would say, what have you done? How have you conducted yourself around that club or whatever to make the members want, actively want you to lose?
Or at the same time, you can just swing that on. Oh, I want him to beat him today, and I don't think it's that bad. It's
Yeah,
still it's
exactly.
still going to
I
produce an
think
atmosphere.
so. I think and like it's not critical because, and it's not a judgment from me because they do it. Like Tim and Cam just laugh and joke through their matches, right?
Yeah.
That's not me saying like, oh, I think it's good or bad. It's a fact. Watch any Tim and Cam doubles match. They like mess around, and that's their persona on court. They make it look like to you like they're not trying, they're not taking you very seriously. Don't get me wrong. It's extremely patronising, and I don't like it at all. I think it's very disrespectful. But that's what they do. That's a fact. So I think in that given world doubles match, I think a few of those Preston members are like, right, we don't actually like you because of that. We
Matthews,
don't we
that's a
don't
great
we
point.
don't like your disrespectful nature on court.
Yeah.
So we're going to tune it up even more for our guys.
I fucking
And
love
again,
that.
what's that?
That's great, mate. That's great analysis. I'm glad you've said that because I think yeah,
Well,
a lot of
if
guys.
you so at that point again,
Yeah,
I'm only speculating.
so true.
But if Tim and Cam's demeanour
It's entirely
on
possible.
court has got underneath the skin of some of the members, and they're like, that's a bit rude. If that causes them to then maybe be a little bit more disrespectful to them and not cross the line, I would say, well, whose fault? It's your own fault, right?
Yeah, you can't expect
If, if,
everyone
if, if
everyone to
I
be
walk on
uniform.
court and I'm playing somebody and the crowd are like actively hostile to me and not going over the line, I would think to myself, God, what have I done here to what did I do here to really like piss them off to make them really want me to lose? Do you know what I mean?
I think you're right as well. I think you're right. I wouldn't say, let's say, it's a culture of Prested to be bad. Maybe they were just like really in favour of Rob, like, or really against like Cam and Tim in that instance. I mean, I don't. It's just one of those things. Like you've analysed it in a good way, and I think it's entirely possible that perhaps, yeah, perhaps the vociferous crowd in that match was due to that.
Imagine
It's true.
how much. So it was
Great point.
Rob was working at Preston at the time, wasn't he?
Yeah, it was. Ricardo was doing the
Yeah.
paddle.
So you've got Ricardo, who started his career at Preston and may not have been doing the real tennis anymore, but has been like attached to that club. Like anytime he's gone off to work somewhere else, he's always gone back to Preston. Like that's home. He is one of them, right?
One of them.
you've got Rob Fay, who's working at the club. So forget that it's Rob Fay and it's the world champion or whatever. Their home pro is playing as well, right? So they've got their home pro and basically their son playing.
Yeah.
Against
two lads from America.
The world champions. So technically, you could argue that they were the underdogs because they were the challengers, not the champions.
Yeah.
And they're playing on their home court. Those Preston members are like, this would be like all of our Christmases would come at once if this happened here. It's happening at our venue. We've got our pro and our baby boy playing in this final. Like, this would be absolutely brilliant if they won here in this particular scenario. Do you know what I mean?
That atmosphere was to be expected. I think we can say
completely.
It was to be expected, and I think you listen to that on YouTube. I mean, we can probably sort of wrap up the discussion a little bit now. You watch that on YouTube, and it's a great crowd. The noise is amazing, and obviously it's a good match. I mean, Cam and Tim won. Do you think they're asked about the crowd right now? Probably not.
Well, also imagine like in that particular situation, the way the match went as well, with Rob and Ricardo winning like the first 4 sets on that day. That's just going to make it even more electric,
mate. Well, one thing I will end it on. I remember just talking about that game. There's a thing on Twitter. It's like, what do you think the first day score will be? And it's like 4-0 Cam and Tim, like 2-all, 3-1 them, and maybe like 3-1 Rob and Ricardo, and there was no option for 4-0 Rob and Ricardo, and I think Faye basically just replied to it like with a quote tweet being like, yeah, 4-0.
Love it.
Which is funny, but yeah, that was
So
good
I think like in summary,
yeah.
I don't know about you, but I
Go
would
on.
much rather have a vocal crowd with 1 or 2 potential Muppets crossing the line than playing in front of either playing in front of nobody, which is no fun, or playing in front of a crowd that are basically silent. That's probably worse.
Mate, I don't think any player in the world would disagree with you. I think everyone would
Yeah.
love to play. It makes you feel like you're a proper player, a proper
Make
sport.
some noise, God! Cheer,
Yeah.
like I don't care if everybody cheers for my opponent every time. It's just nice to have a
Mate,
bit of an atmosphere to feed off.
Makes you feel like you're playing a really serious sport, which we are.
Yeah,
But
and you kind of think, right,
it's real.
they care, right? You know, they actually really care, and I think that's where, like in the past, like where some British Opens have been a bit kind of, you know, they've been a bit quiet, and I think it's great that the crowd are respectful, but you kind of be like, right, you know, you don't need to be too respectful. You're allowed to want someone to win.
I agree. This has been a nice discussion actually. Surprising it's in the 13th podcast because we could have done this one early doors. Good insight today.
Well, thank you very much to the contributor who suggested it, and
honestly,
I can't imagine we've given them the kind of the answer that they want.
No, but we've given them an answer, right? I mean, there's no right or wrong, just an opinion. And honestly, just get your suggestions in because we will talk about anything. And if you do raise a point, oh my god, absolutely live for the contributions. So excellent, excellent, excellent. However, we're going to move on to the next in the court series, and we're going east. So actually, in the last podcast, I said, yeah, we'll go west to Camford. And Simon,
well, you didn't actually say to Camford.
No,
you said we'd go south, which would have put us in the English Channel.
The thing is, I've portrayed myself as terrible at geography, and like the thing is, I know exactly where Hyde is, and I knew. I just don't know why I said it. I also said west to Camford, which is just wrong because west is like left. However, we're going east to Camford. Yeah, Simon Talbot Williams was like, yeah, east, mate. And I was like, oh, fantastic. But yeah, we're going to Camford today. I've been there just the once. Yeah, just the once. I remember. That was on that trip to Dorset. But yeah, I'm sure you've been there a few times.
So, well, obviously, when I started playing, I was at, my first post was Bridport. So I used to go up to Canford every Monday morning and practice with Matt Potter.
Oh, that's cool.
So Matt would have started working there like after I started at Bridport. So I don't know how long it took me before I started doing that, but I think the first ever away court I played was after about a year, and I played at Bristol. So it was probably 18 months in. I was going up to Canford every Monday.
Oh, fair enough.
Little 45, 50-minute drive.
Oh, well, it's actually quite far then. That's reasonable.
Well, it's 40 miles, but 40 miles in Dorset, you know.
Of motorway, just negotiating cows and stuff.
Single carriageway the whole way. It's pretty miserable.
Oh, fair enough. That's quite cool. So, I mean, I don't really know what goes on at Camford now. To be fair, I know James. I don't. James Ryan and Steve Ronaldson are there. Steve Ronaldson, long time pro.
Long time. Well, it's obviously a school facility.
Yeah.
They've got a good little kind of club room at the back. So they've got like glass area behind
Yeah, that's nice actually.
the
Yeah.
dead on. So they've
I
got
do
like a
remember
little
that.
kind of kitchenette and little kind of lounge area for people to have beers and stuff. I'm going to assume it's a Bickley court just because of the way it plays.
Yeah, it's a nice court, isn't it? It's so nice.
I mean, true. That's just the only word you could use for it.
Yeah, it's so nice.
Just really kind of slick. It's quite quick off the floor. It's quick off the walls. Do you know when I play courts like Canford, and there's a few of them that I say this about. The way I describe it, which is going to sound really kind of vague and weird, the ball just does what it should do. I know that sounds really weird because what should a ball do? But do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It just seems to carry off the floor nicely. It carries off the wall nicely. You don't really get, if the ball's kind of cut into the corner, it cuts. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But you don't get those kind of weird bounces where you go like, how's it done that? Do you know what I mean? It's just a lovely, lovely place.
Quite nice.
Play.
I think it's got quite nice lighting as well.
Yeah, the ceilings. They've got like a mesh like up by the lights, which is actually quite low. It's not the highest. It's not the tallest court in the world. And the galleries, presumably because of the school kids and stuff, like behind the galleries, it's all like a cage. So it feels quite. It feels like quite industrial. So imagine like Hampton Court, which has got the perspex.
Yeah, that's
like
true.
The other side of the gallery, so the tourists. Canford have got like a cage in that situation, so it can feel a bit.
Imagine the crowd like biting the cage, like let me in, let me in.
Like the Walking Dead.
Well, there's a lot of good players who've come from Camford. Well, I say a lot. There's some players who've come from Camford.
Also, another big mention for Canford, like the way it plays and stuff, is obviously Steve Ronaldson is like widely regarded. Again, we might be crushing this myth from last time.
Oh god.
Always been known as like one of the best, if not the best ball maker in the world. Puts a lot of time and dedication into it. So when you go down to Canford, the one thing you are guaranteed is a top-notch set of balls.
That's true. He makes the World Championship balls, doesn't he?
So you've got a lovely court and lovely like balls to play with as well. It's just a very nice place to play. Do you know what's actually quite interesting about Canford?
Go on.
Do you know what the penthouse is made from? And obviously it's wood.
I don't know, mate. What?
So a few years ago, I don't know how long ago it was now, but a few years ago they needed to get the penthouses redone, and they basically just used the floor from squash courts.
No, that's unbelievable recycling. That's like charity shop gone mad.
So the penthouses at Canford are actually squash court floors.
That's sick. I love that.
Cool, isn't it?
I really like that. That's so cool.
When did we play down there? Oh, we did the National League. We did a National League match thing, didn't we, against Darren?
This wasn't a we, but this was a you.
Did you not play? Did you not come down with me? No. So when have you played that?
I went. It was in 2012, and we went on holiday to Dorset.
You did your Bridport and Canford thing.
Yeah, get your pronouns right.
Can you remember who you played?
Yeah, I remember, but I can't remember his name. Maybe Anthony or something. I don't know, but yeah, it was a long time ago. That's 8 years. But yeah.
So can you remember how like the court plays?
Yeah, it's just really nice. It's like probably more tomorrow, but a bit more true, I guess.
Well, I think like just the floors in like better condition and stuff, isn't it?
I remember it cut down a lot. It's just nice though. It's just a nice court.
Colour scheme, can you remember that?
It's like reddish, isn't it? It's like brick colour.
Is it?
Is it red? I don't know. The walls.
Well, I don't know. Red's quite an aggressive colour. It's just kind of like natural.
Natural, yeah. No makeup.
It's quite. Yeah, the floor's kind of orangey. Yeah, I'll give you that. It's like brick, a kind of an orangey kind of colour. The walls are kind of black but look very natural.
Yeah.
And the trimming around the galleries and stuff, if I remember rightly, I can always remember it feels quite blue on court at Canford.
Oh yeah, so maybe I am right.
Yes, the grill board is like sky blue.
Oh, very good.
Yeah, well, as you said, there's been some good players out of Canford. They must have won the. I'd love to. You're more of a stato than me.
Yeah, go on.
They must have won the Henry Leaf like it's got to be like 10 years in a row.
Not 10 years in a row. I think they won it a lot because obviously you got to remember like Radley with Snow and Mail would have been pretty good. And there's a few, but
Oh
now
yeah, but I'm
it's
thinking like
yeah
after. Oh yeah, I'm thinking like after them, like Ben Ronaldson, Ivan Ronaldson, Matt Ronaldson, Spike.
yeah.
They would have all.
David Harms.
Dave Harms.
Just remembered that. That's
Is
the
that who
name.
you were trying to think of last time?
Yeah, I was like, I know there's one more player. I don't know if he ever played in it, but yeah, I know he was decent. He was decent in the day. But yeah, that's a few good names to be fair. I don't know anyone else who went to Camford to be fair. But yeah, certainly a very strong like those guys in that generation.
So the current Henry Leaf holders at Eton.
They actually are, yeah, Rory and Jamie.
They don't even have a core. Come on, Pete. Come on, old school boys. Jesus Christ. They
I
haven't
would
even got
look,
a core.
I would love to win that, but I can't.
Who would you? Could you? Yeah, I was thinking. I mean, obviously pros aren't. So
No,
pros aren't allowed to.
pros
They're
can
not allowed
play.
to play in it anymore.
Pros can play. Pros can play.
Well, they weren't allowed for a few years because Ricardo Smith and AJ Kemp won it for like the Guildford school, and I don't think the powers that be liked the fact that like some chavvy little school in Essex won the Henry Leaf.
No,
So they basically they stopped pros from playing.
they stopped him, and then they've recently allowed it again. But I think obviously the sentiment exists, which I think is
Do
so
you know what's
unfair.
really really annoying for me is like
Well,
people like
John
Mark.
Colfox School.
It's the Sir John Colfox School, yeah. Like people like Neil Mackenzie, Mark Mathias, Levi Gale, all of those guys. None of them went to the same school as me,
No.
which is really annoying.
Oh yeah, obviously because you're itching to win the Henry Leaf.
Well, I mean, I'm itching to win something, mate. The trophy cabinet's been bare since 2010, so.
That's not true. You won the pro doubles the other day.
Oh, actually, I've won it twice. Yeah, good point.
Your doubles record's very good.
Less people, less people to beat.
Exactly. Right. Well, yeah. What else about Camford? Dazza obviously is probably the best exponent of the Camford flag at the moment.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, I thought you were going to say of all time. I was like, I think a few people would beg to differ, but yeah, at the moment, well, world number 9, isn't he?
Nah, he's not. He's like in the world number 10, isn't he? 9, 10.
I don't know. I'm pretty sure he mentioned world number 9 in the Washington chat last week, didn't he? Did he get that wrong?
I'm sure he mentioned a lot of things in that Washington chat. But yeah. Well, so should we rank Camford? I mean, I don't know if you got anything else to add, any stories about Camford. There was a tournament, wasn't there? The Camford Invitational.
The Camford Invitational was an absolute belter, and I think
I
the
remember
only reason it really stopped was because it used to have world ranking points.
Is it? That's quite cool.
Yeah, it used to have world ranking points, and then the IRTPA said, and absolutely correctly, that was when they kind of like looked at all the events and they were like, right, you can't have ranking points in a closed event. So like the British Amateur Singles used to have ranking points.
Oh, for God's sake!
And then it was, they were told like, right, there's no points in this anymore because it's a closed event. You're not letting pros play in it. Same thing with the Camford Invitational. So Steve used to invite the top 8 players he could get, and I think what they did a couple of times after that was they took like the top 7 and then had a small qualifier or something to enable it to have some points.
Oh, that's good.
Which is a good idea. It was the same thing like the European Open suddenly had qualifiers. It's because effectively then it's open to anyone to enter. But yeah, the Camford Invitational was a great tournament. That was my first ever. That was the first ever thing I watched. I remember.
It's in your blog, isn't it? It's in your blog. You said you watched.
Is it?
You said you watched. Yeah, you should.
It
Everyone
was the
should.
first week. I started work at Bridport on the Monday, and that weekend, or maybe the weekend after, was the Camford Invitational. And one of the members, late Ian Tyson, who was an absolute superb human being, R.I.P. He took me up to Canford's for the Invitational, and I remember just like he walked around the corner and introduced me to a few people, and he introduced me to Nick Wood, who was just sat outside the pro shop reading a book like before he was playing. And I was just like, I just took it all in, like, okay, yeah, Nick Wood, great.
He's not changed.
It just didn't mean anything. It didn't mean anything to me at the time, and then like I thought about it about 6 months later. I was like, wow, I've actually gone and met like 5 of the top 10 players in the world.
Yeah, you mentioned about how like Gooding was really angry or something.
Well, that's not changed, is it?
No. That's yeah. It's good. Bryn told me he's still got the trophy actually from the Camford Invitational.
He
He's
probably would have been the last winner, yeah.
the last winner. That's actually.
I mean, what you've just done there is you've just exposed the fact that trophy is around and it's in Bryn's locker, so they might ask for it back now.
Mate, he's melted it down. He's not. So
Smells at it.
before we actually rank Camford, I think I heard some rumours last night that Oratory, when the worlds get sorted out again, they're going to do like a silver racket for zero for like anyone of a zero handicap sort of thing. They're going to do like a tournament, which would be cool. Which could
As
sort
in,
of,
take out the plus players and just like
yeah.
so not like a 0 to 9s, but
No, no,
basically
no.
just
But it's not
a cap of 0 basically.
not like there's many plus players to take out anyway. But yeah, that could be a new Camford Invitational sort of thing, which would be nice. Hopefully they get
Speak
that
for
going.
yourself.
Yeah, exactly. Right, well, Ben, where's Camford going in your like courts list? Because we'll compile a proper list, won't we?
Well, I think what we're going to do when we compile it, I was thinking about this last night. We're not going to compile a full list because I think it's very unfair for us to like rank something as the worst,
No.
right? Because that's not very fair.
It's
And
also
let's be
hard.
honest,
Like I'm not
the
asked
fact that
about putting something as the
yeah,
worst.
exactly. And also, we're just lucky that they're all. We love the fact that they're all there. So
Yeah.
I think what we'll do at the end of it is maybe rank like a top 10 or a top 5, top 5 each.
I'm doing a top 5 each. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, at the moment we're just putting into
Brackets.
third chunks, aren't we?
Yeah.
All right. Well, Camford's top third for me.
Is it?
Yeah.
I've been there once, and
it just plays so nicely. Like it's one of those places you turn up, and within 5 minutes of hitting, you're just like, "Yep, got this place sorted," because it does everything it should do.
Good answer. For me, it's going in the middle, because I put Hyde and Camford in the middle because I remember playing them and I thought these are all right actually. But no, genuinely.
These are all right, actually.
Yeah, no, I don't think they're bad at all. But the thing is, like, I don't have enough memories to possibly justify them in my top third. So I'm going.
Yeah, I think
But
that's fair, isn't
but
it?
the thing is, like, if I had to play a tournament there, if I had to play a match there, I'd be perfectly happy because it's nice.
Yeah, and I guess it's easy for me to put it. Um, excuse me.
Oh my god,
It's easy for me to put it top third because I used to play on it
a bit.
all the time. Yeah, and as we said, like when we've done Manchester and Bridport, you naturally put the courts that you play on a lot at the top.
Yeah.
Oh wow. Because you're used to them, whether they play stereotypically nicely or not. If you play on them all the time, you're going to know all about them, aren't you?
Exactly. So that's nice. So right, we've done Camford, and now we're going to continue to go east. And I've got my Google Maps
Well
up.
done.
So
Correct. Well, hang on. No. You don't need Google Maps for this. What is the next available court if you go Eastern Camford?
Well, it's obviously Seacourt.
Well, there you go then.
Well,
You don't need Google
it
Maps.
was just nice to look at a map to be honest, because I know Camford is in Wimborne, and I've got Wimborne there. I can see
Wimborne, Minster.
Dorchester near where Hyde is. Yeah, so I've got Wimborne, and all that. And yeah, we're gonna go to Hayling Island. Whereabouts is that? Oh, there it is. Yeah, Hayling Island.
Maybe you do need Google Maps.
No, not at all. Hayling Island. So we'll talk about Seacourt next, which is awesome actually. That was mate, that Seacourt's cool, and yeah, that'll be nice for the next podcast. Ben,
Lovely.
what are you doing for the rest of today?
Well, the sun is out.
Yeah, it is, isn't it?
In Leamington, very much so. We actually moved the other day, so
Have you actually moved?
yeah. So
Mate,
we've sold our place.
my dad told me that, and he was like, "Why has Ben got a second house now?" I'm like, "I think he's moved house."
It's not a second house, trust me.
It's a house,
It's
isn't
not
it?
going that well.
How
Yeah,
close?
so we've sold our place, and
Really?
the place we're moving to isn't ready yet, so it's still being built. So we are in. I'm actually staying in the club flat for the next few months. So I'm up high, looking at the town hall right now, looking at some grey clouds,
Wait,
waiting for some sun.
Are you in the Airbnb?
Yeah,
Oh my god, are you paying for that?
of course I am.
Oh, right, I thought you just got it for free. I was like, mate, that's sick. That's
No,
awesome.
otherwise I would have just lived here all the time, right?
Yeah, that's so cool. I didn't know that.
So I don't know what will be the order of the day.
Just go,
Unpack some clothes, take the
mate.
dog for a walk,
Just
relax.
roll out of bed straight into spoons, but it won't be open.
Exactly. Well, I was feeling after the Zoom call last night. escalated a little bit after you left, so I was feeling a little bit fluffy when I woke up, but I'm feeling all right now.
Yeah, I was just waiting for you to message me. Actually, I didn't know if the message was going to come through, but it did.
Yeah, so I'll I don't know, probably just kind of mooch about.
Nice.
Try.
It's nice.
I've got a white chocolate Magnum in the freezer. I might tuck into that in a minute. Get my
Never too early,
get
Ben.
well when you've got a bit of a hangover, your body just craves sugar, doesn't it? So it literally is never too early.
No. That's
Anyway,
good.
what are you doing for the rest of the day?
I'm going to finish off this episode of Billions because I saw that Real Tennis was featured in the series
Yeah.
in this series 5. So I've just started it. It looks quite cool, like this financial drama. I quite like that sort of stuff. I'm going to go for a walk later. I might spend some time on eBay. Just loving it at the moment.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
your new vice, isn't
it
it?
really is. And I've just downloaded Depop, so I bought a Fred Perry jumper yesterday.
What's Depop?
It's like another second-hand clothes website. You might like it. Uh,
Oh, that's brilliant.
so and I'm gonna do some bicep curls. I think as per usual.
Rest day for me today. Rest day. I'm gonna have a
Really,
nice stretch. Yeah,
I
I'm doing Monday to Friday, and then like having a stretch over the weekend. So
my chest is shrinking in size. I can't wait to get back on a bench. But yeah, this has actually been a good discussion. I can't wait for some more feedback in the next few days or so. We'll get this uploaded today. And yeah, stay safe, everyone.